Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Steve Paalz, and this is a video on Google Analytics. This video will serve as a basic tutorial for how Google Analytics works and kind of give an in-depth explanation about the main components of Google Analytics and how best practices to use them. Hopefully, by watching this video, this should give you enough knowledge to take on at least a first attempt at using Google Analytics. I'm going to go through a brief explanation of how it actually acquires data, what's going on behind the scenes, some of the main components of the Google Analytics dashboard, which you can see right here, key pieces of data information to look for, and how to manipulate data. Then I'll finally end with some suggested resources for learning more about Google Analytics. I'll talk more about at the end about how you can actually go about getting a certification with Google Analytics and learning more. So jumping right in with Google Analytics, it's first necessary to explain kind of from the back end how the software actually works. So Google Analytics makes what's called a tag, and this tag is a piece of code that is attached to website codes when developers build websites. So when they do that, this allows Google to track things that happen on the website. You can track things from how many people come, how often they come, what pages on a website they look at, key demographic data about the people who are looking at the website. It also can track certain events or actions that users take on the website. So basically, it allows them to kind of track how any user interacts with any given website. Now, Google Analytics has kind of its own vocabulary and glossary that you probably need to learn a lot about. But I'm going to go through quickly the kind of most basic and key elements of what Google Analytics is talking about. So first, starting with a hit. A hit is any request at all, any request sent to the Google Analytics data collection system. So this can be literally anything. If it's one person who comes to the website, that's a hit. One person clicks on, a submission link on a website, that's a hit. Anything counts as a hit. Now, a visitor is defined as someone with a unique ID, and this ID is something that is stored on a user's computer in their cookies, usually in their cache cookies, that kind of identifies who they are to Google. Whenever someone with a unique one of these cookies comes, they're counted as one new visitor, so it's one unique person. So kind of in opposition to that, a single session is different than a visitor. A single session is when a visitor comes, visits the site for however long time, and then goes away for 30 minutes before coming back again. If they came back again after 30 minutes, that would be 2 sessions, even if it's the same person. That's kind of a key difference there. Sessions, one user can have many different sessions, but a user can only be a visitor one time. Sessions are kind of one of the key statistics that really shows how often someone's coming to a site, really how many people interacted with the site. Even though visitors are the true raw number of people, sessions gives it usually a better view. Page views is the next important definition. A page view is recorded every time a page is viewed. Pretty simple. It's recorded more technically every time that the Google Analytics page view tracking method is executed. This is whenever a visitor hits the back button or hits the next, going to a new page, whatever it is, a page view is recorded. So when Google Analytics takes all these hits that come from the different site and records them all into this different data, this goes through this whole gigantic Google Analytics database. It spits out here, kind of on the page I'm showing you now. This is the Google Analytics homepage. So the data I'm showing you here is the Google Merchandise Store. This is just demo data that they give you. Unfortunately, I can't show you any of the data from the company I'm currently working at because it's confidential data. But I can go ahead and show you this demo data that I got through Google itself. So you can see these are all the different accounts that I have an account with. So you can see the different ones for my company here since we have many websites that we track. This is the demo account, and under demo there's different properties. So under one account there could be up to as many as 50 different properties, but for this one it's just the merchandise store. And there's many different views of the data. So you see here's the master view. That's the one we'll go ahead and take a look at. But you could also, this is part of the analytics certification course that they give you this data. They have a test view that kind of allows you to play around with data however you want to. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the master view here because it's the easiest way to look at it. So here's just the home page. This kind of has a very high-level summary of all the things going on. I personally don't spend a ton of time on this homepage because it doesn't give you quite the information you need. But diving more into the specific pages here on the left under reports, this can kind of give you the in-depth analysis of everything you see going on here. So we'll go ahead and go to there. So first is the real-time report. Go ahead and click on overview. The real-time report shows exactly what is happening at any given moment on your site. So this is now I'm not sure if this data is actually real. It might be fake data that Google gives us. They never actually specified during the course, but this is what apparently is happening to the Google Merchandise Store right now. There's 31 active users on the site. Most people are on a desktop computer, 81%. You can see there. Hit different pages per minute, cycling pretty frequently. The top active pages, you can see most people on their home page. That's pretty typical of websites. Let's see here. This top referrals, social traffic. We'll get all this in a second. There's even location data here. So this is all real-time data. It's not always perfectly accurate because of what Google uses called sampling. So Google can't, input all this data at once and spit it out to you and give you this analytics about it. It can only do it so quickly. So in order to give it to you as fast as possible, they do what's called sampling, where they take only some of the sessions that are occurring. They take all the information based on those sessions, and they kind of extrapolate that to the larger data set. As time goes on, if you look back at data from a few months ago or even a few weeks ago, it'll be more up to date and more accurate because it'll be more and more of the data until eventually they stop sampling for data at a certain point once it's all come in, and they have just all the data present there for you. So real-time data is really cool. It's a really cool way to look at what's happening at your site at that second. I'm going to go ahead and skip down to a different report, the audience report. This is probably where I personally spend the most time in Google Analytics. So wait a second while it loads here. The audience tab, this basically has kind of the bread and butter of the things I was talking about. So users or visitors this is the data up here. In the past 7 days, Google Merchandise Stores has had 15,265 users. Notice they've had 19,000 sessions. That was related to what I was talking about earlier. Some of these users must have come back more than one time. There's almost 4,000 more sessions than visitors. So, and you can see that here, number of sessions per user, 1.25. So more people are visiting the site more than once, with at least a 30-minute time period in between of where they're not there. Page views, you can see how many different pages were viewed on the site. Average session duration, almost 3 minutes. That's pretty good. Bounce rate. So bounce rate is the rate at which someone enters a website and then immediately leaves without taking any action. Ideally, you want that is to be as low as possible. Here's some other cool information about the audience. I'll go ahead and show you some of my favorite things. There's a lot you can do here. There's a ton of stuff within this software, and really takes a long time playing around to figure it all out. I'll show you some of the things I use the most frequently, such as demographic data. This one shows a breakdown of ages that are visiting the site. So you can see for this particular one, 46.91% of users are 25 and 34. Also shows the gender breakdown, male and female. So again, this is taken from Google has information about all the people visiting sites through Google, and they can use that to show users like me what's happening on my particular site and what I'm looking at. Similar here, this is a really cool one. You can see what people who are visiting your site are interested in. They do what's called affinity categories. So you can see here the top affinity categories for people in the past week again. Shoppers and value shoppers are the number one visitor in this past week on a Google Merchandise Store. This can give you a lot of insight into what people are actually interested in. It can really help with marketing and advertising because look, people at the Google Merchandise Store are into technology. How can we kind of target that audience, or target the audience that is sports and fitness, health and fitness buffs? So that's another pretty cool thing. Finally, I'm also a big fan of if you click on mobile, you can see devices. This shows a device breakdown of how people are who are visiting your site or on. This one, you can see Apple iPhone by far away the highest. This is key information for marketers. They can use this and be like, okay, if most people are using iPhone to visit our site, we should really optimize things the best for iPhone. We should spend more time there. And then finally, geo is a really cool one. This one can show you language and location of users. So this one shows where they're all around the world. For Google, you can see mostly in the United States. Break that down even further, and we can see where people in the United States are visiting the Google Merchandise Store. A lot of people in California, not surprising there. So before I move on to the next part of the site, I'd like to point out quickly the date range custom here. This is a really important function because you don't want to just look at the last week, right? Sometimes you want to look at the past, couple months. Let's say October through middle of November here. This changes the data that we have a lot. As expected, we're looking at a much larger period of time here. So we've had 91,000 users over the past month and a half. Taking a look next at acquisition. This is another important tab for any Google Analytics users. This is where acquisition tab is all about how people are coming to your site. So this is key looking at here is referrals. That's probably the one I use the most in this, although there are a lot of other important things here. So this is where Google tracks where people come to your site from. Because remember, they're tracking other things on the internet as well. So you can see from merchandise store, not surprisingly, a lot of stuff from other Google sites that are redirecting you to the merchandise store. You can also see there's a lot of direct traffic, which is people who just come to the site directly, or people who search in Google, organic searches. Referrals, people who come from other sites, or socials, people who come from social media sites. So we can see that in the Google merchandise store, most people came from YouTube, these from Facebook, or Reddit as well. So those are kind of the big main functions of the acquisition tab. Again, there's a lot more to this that I could go for in just a few minutes, but on a high level, this tab shows how people come to your site. Finally, the behavior tab. This tab shows how people interact with your site. This is another one that there's a lot to this one, but this shows page view breakdown, what page views are seen the most. A cool part of this is the behavior flow. This shows how people actually typically walk through a site. This can be really important where sites are working towards one end conversion goal for users. If they want to buy something or watch a certain video or read something. You can see how people walk through the site in a given session and what percentage of people typically take which step next, which can be, really valuable data for people who are actually building the site and people who are designing sites. So that's kind of the main three tabs: the audience acquisition, behavior tab, the real-time tab, and this is another one that can give you some really interesting, cool data. Again, there's only so much of Google Analytics I can go through in these few short minutes, but here are some resources that I recommend beyond just a simple 10-minute video for you to learn more. I highly recommend the Google Analytics Certification Academy. I went through this and I learned a ton about Google Analytics. Analyticsmarket.com. This is kind of just a help website that I used a lot. I got a lot of the definitions I spoke about today from there. Google Analytics Help Center. This is another just kind of support service from Google itself. And then Google Advertiser Community Forum. This is one where they have a forum set up through Google and people give help on Google Analytics through this link here. So thank you again for watching this video. I hope I was able to teach you a little bit about Google Analytics and how it works and what it looks like. Again, I suggest reaching out to those resources, trying to learn more, and getting that certification. Thank you for listening.